Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the focus note taking steps, or F.N.T. Step one is to take notes. In order to do that, you need to first create the notes. You need to be able to determine the purpose. And then you need to determine the essential question and select your format. Which you can do Cornell notes, which if this is your piece of paper, you have your notes here, notes. You have your question up here, and then you have your questions down here. So these are your questions. You could do 2-column notes, where it's like a compare contrast. So here's one side of the notes, and then this is the other side, which would be like the contrast. Or you could do like a double bubble math, which would also be a compare contrast, which would help figure out whatever you may be taking notes on. Like if it's history, you can be doing, like, this is the American Revolution and this is the Texas Revolution, what they had in common and then what their differences were. Step two is his processing.
Rolling.
You can process your notes by thinking about your notes. You should do this within 24 hours of taking your notes so that it stays fresh in your mind. Revising your notes would be like cutting out unnecessary things or like adding stuff that you think you'd need more than other stuff. Organizing your notes would be like highlighting or writing in notes, asking questions, all that kind of stuff. The third step is connecting your thinking. That would be like thinking beyond the notes. Like after you would think what's going on, that would also be connecting your learning, which, like in math, if you're learning about PEMDAS, the process of equations, and then in science you need to learn process of equations with atoms, you can bring those together, which would be connecting your learning from other classes. Asking questions would be back to what I said in the first or second steps, where you're making your notes and you're actually writing the notes on the paper. Like again with the Cornell notes, the questions that you ask would be over here. So this is where you can put your questions. Like if I'm doing math, for example, you can say, how do I multiply? Multiply by 10. So that would be a question, which then you could go and make sure you can study that to make sure you get it right on your next test. Step 4 is summarizing and reflecting on your notes, that would be like thinking on your notes as a whole. Like, what have I learned from this? Identifying important and specifics, like if you're learning about math and you need to know what PEMDAS stands for, you might want to highlight that and make sure that you can learn that, because that's a specific thing you need to do. You need to summarize the notes. So again, if you're learning about math, you should summarize how math that day has helped you on your learning and reflect on your learning, which would then connect to summary. The fifth and final step is to use your notes and revise your notes. So you would want to just make sure over one more time this would be within like 2 days of your first taking your notes, and then you want to make sure that you can apply it to your learning. So if you're like, it's like studying, like in the college you don't know very many people in your class, but you might get together and study using your notes from that class to be able to help you with the learning. You want to use your formatted notes to meet purpose of note-taking, which would be why you took the notes. Like, why was the whole purpose of you taking your notes in the first place?